So hello guys, welcome back once again in the another video of React Native. So in this video we will use the Redux. So Redux is a very important topic in the React and React Native both. So we can use the Redux in React and React Native both application. So first is that what is Redux? So Redux actually a state management library for JavaScript application including React and React Native. So Redux helps to manage the state of an application in a predictable and centralized way. So what is the meaning of it? So it means that with the help of the Redux we can manage the state of an application in a single place. So the next question is that need of Redux. Why we use the Redux in React Native application? So Redux actually helps in reducing prop drilling. So prop drilling actually we have also discussed in my previous lecture when we pass the prop from multiple component from one component to another and from another component to another. So it is a very complex process. With the help of the Redux we can reduce it. So we can also remove the prop drilling with useContext. So we have also created a separate lecture on the useContext and given the link in the description box, but each one has own benefit. We can also use any one of them. We will also create a separate lecture on this topic, what is the major difference between the useContext and the Redux, but in this video we will only discuss about the Redux. But in most large project we mostly use the Redux. So this is the architecture of the Redux, how Redux work in the React Native application. First is the action. So actions are the plain JavaScript object that represent a intention to change the state. So in the action we use the type property and we'll also learn with the practical demo. So here we just try to understand that how Redux work. So actions are dispatched to the Redux store using the dispatch function and we pass the actions inside the reducer. So reducer is also a pure function that takes the current state and actions as a argument and return a new state and pass the new state to the store. So store is a Redux store. Store actually a centralized piece of Redux architecture, so it holds the application state. So store is the single source for the state of the entire application and provide the state to the component, and here we can use one component and we can use the multiple components, so all the component can access the current state through the store. So all these things we will understand with the practical demo and how we create the actions, how we create the reducer and how we create the store. So all these things we will create. So in this lecture we will practical understand how the actions are created and how actions we pass to the reducer and how reducers are created and how reducer we use inside the store and how the store we use inside the component. So let's start it with the practical demo. So this is a React Native application I have already created, and the package.json we have just using here two dependencies, React and React Native. Before using Redux we need to add the Redux package. So first of all we go inside the, so we need to add here Redux npm. So this is the Redux official package and we just need to add here copy and we just use inside our project. Yeah, so now Redux is added here. So the second library for the Redux we need to add here React Redux npm. With the help of this library we can use the useSelector and useDispatch hooks. So we need to add this. So just copy from here and we need to add here. So now both libraries we have added here. So now we just use these libraries inside the React Native application. So second thing we need to add here a folder. We just create here a folder and name of this folder I am taking a Redux. So you can take here any name. So I am just taking here for understanding the name of this folder is the Redux, and inside the Redux I am taking another folder and name of this folder is the actions. So you can also take here any name, and inside the actions I am just creating another folder and name of this folder is the action counters, and inside the counter actions I am just creating a file, counteractions.js. So here we can create multiple actions also. So I am just renaming the folder name. So folder name we can just take here actions, and inside the actions I am taking here the counter actions. So here we just need to add the actions. So actions are the plain JavaScript object that represent an intention to change the state. So I am just taking here a counter actions. So here I am just typing const, and here just type the name of the action. I'm taking here a increment action. So one necessary thing we need to add here is the type. So without type we cannot declare the action. So actually type is the property. So we need to add here return, and here we just type here type, and here we need to add the type of the action. So I am just taking here a increment. So you can take here any name. So I am just taking here a increment is the type of action. So here we can add a single action or we can add a multiple action. So actually this is the one single action, and we need to export this action from here. So I am using here a two actions. One is the increment and second is the decrement. So we need to add here decrement, and we need to add here export, because we are exporting these actions from here and we just use inside the reducer. So this is the action we have declared here. So actions are actually created using the action creator, and action creator are functions that return action object. So these are the action creator and these are the action object we are returning from here. So second thing, we need to add here another folder. Inside the Redux we just add here another folder, and name of this folder is the reducer, and here I am just using a file, and name of this file is the reducer counter, because we will use the counter increment and counter decrement in this example. So I am using here a reducer counter.js. So reducer actually the pure function that takes the current state and action as a argument and return a new state. So one thing we need to add inside the reducer is the initial state. So just I am using here const, and here is the count. Suppose I am using here count value is 0. So here we just need to add the name of the reducer is the counter reducer, so here we need to add two things. One is the state and another is the action. So I am just taking here the name state, and inside the state I will just pass here initial state, and second thing we need to add here action. So I am just taking here action. So here we can use the switch statement, and with help of the switch we will handle the actions. Suppose here is the switch, and here we just check the action dot key. So action, so action actually we are using here. So action type we just use inside the reducer. We just type here action dot type, and here we just check the every case of the type. Suppose here is the first case is the we are using here two types. One is the increment and one is the decrement. So we can just copy from here increment, and here we can just use, if the case is the increment, So we just return here braces, and here we just state. With the three dot we can also update the state like this, and here the name of the state is the count we are using here, and we just update the state here and return from here count plus 1. So here we just need to add here state dot count. Directly we cannot access the count here, we need to add here state dot count. This is the increment, and like this we just use here second is the decrement action. So we just handle here decrement, so we need to copy from here decrement, and we need to add here inside the reducer is the decrement, and here we just subtract 1 from here. So when the reducer will be used, so when the case increment is executed, so it will increment the count value 1, and when increment case is executed, so it will decrease the count value 1. So if not any case is run, so it will just return here state, and we need to export here name of the reducer. So counter reducer we are exporting from here. We have declared the actions, and now we have declared the reducer, and inside the reducer we are using the actions. So here suppose I am using a single reducer, but in large application you can use multiple reducers. So for multiple reducer, how we can use multiple reducers? So we need to add here another file, and name of this file is the index.js, and inside the index.js we can import counter reducer, and second thing we need to import here is the redux. We have added. So in multiple reducer we can use combined reducers. So combined reducer, actually Redux provide the feature of the combined reducer. What is the combined reducer? So actually in the large application you might have multiple reducers and handling different part of the state. So Redux provide a combined reducer function to combine the multiple reducer into a single reducer function. So we can use here const root reducer combined reducer. So we use here combined reducer. So here we can use one reducer and more than one reducer. So suppose I am using here a counter, and inside the counter we can use here counter reducer. So if you are using multiple reducers, so we can use here inside the combined reducer, and we just need to export from here root reducer. So now we have added the reducer with a combined reducer. We just need to save this. So next thing we need to add here a store. So now we just create another folder, and name of this folder is the store, and inside the store we just add a file store.js, and here we will use the reducer. So first we need to import here a root reducer, and second thing we need to add here is the import. We just create the store. So it is actually deprecated, but currently we can use it. So here we just create the store. So we need to add here const, and here we just add the name of the store is the store, and here we just use the property create store, and inside the store we just add a root reducer, and here we just need a export the store from here. Now we have created the store. So now we have created the actions, reducers and store. So now we just use the store inside the component. So we need a component. So I am just inside the src, I am just creating a component file, and here I am just using a name of the component is the counter.js. So go inside the app.js and we just copy from here the whole component, and inside the counter we just paste here, and we just change the name is the counter. And here we need to import the store. So here we just need to add the package React-Redux. So we just import here two hooks, useSelector and useDispatch. And with the help of the useDispatch we can call the actions increment and decrement. So how we can use it, let's check. So first of all, here we need to add a text. Suppose I want to use here count. We are using inside the reducer. Actually here is the name of the state is the count, and we just want to use this state inside the counter. So here we need to add, suppose here I am using a const and name of the variable count val, and with help of the useSelector we can use the state, and here we just need to add here this dot state. So inside the selector we need to add a bracket, and here we can use the state, and here we can just state. So with the help of the state we can call the counter. So actually counter is the name of the reducer we are using here. Inside the root reducer we are using a counter reducer actually store inside the counter. So we will use here counter dot, and inside the counter we are using a count is the name of the state, like this. And here we can just show the value of the count. So with the help of the selector we just select the state, and now we just use the useDispatch. So with the help of the useDispatch we dispatch the action into the store. So I am just using here a button. So button actually is declare here, and here we just use the title of the button is the increment, and here we just use the action of the button is the on press, and inside the on press we need to add here two button. So second button is the decrement, and here we need to add the style. So here we just use the dispatcher const, and here we just use the useDispatch hook. So it is a hook. React-Redux library actually provide the hook useSelector and useDispatch. We can use this hook like other hooks we have used inside the React Native from the React library. So we just create a variable of type useDispatch, and with this dispatch we just need to add here dispatch, and here we just add a dispatch function, and here we need to add dispatch like this. So now we just pass the action inside the dispatch and pass to the store. So we just need to import here actions. So we are using here two actions, increment and decrement. So we need to import here increment, and we need to add here decrement. So these are imported from the counter actions we have created. So we just need to pass here the increment, and second is the decrement. Okay, so now we have created the component, and we just use this component inside the app.js component. So now this is our app.js component, and here we need two things. One is the store and one is the component. So we can use here multiple component, but single store we will use inside the multiple components. So suppose here I am just importing a counter component we just created, and second thing we need to import here is the store we have already created. So the name of the store is the store, and this is inside the store folder we have created this. And another thing we need to import here is the provider. So another thing we need to import here provider. So React-Redux provide the providers. So we just import the provider from the React-Redux, and here is the provider. We just change here the name provider. All the component we just wrap inside the provider. So we need to add here the component counter inside the, and inside the provider we just pass the store, because store we will use in every component. So we just add here store. So now everything we have added. So now just run the application again and check everything is working or not. So just I am save the application. So we need to run the application again. So we can run the same application in the Android and in the iOS. So currently I am running this application on the iOS, so we can run also on the Android. So the error is showing that text does not exist inside the counter.js. So we go inside the counter.js, and here we need to add the text inside the React Native. So we just again save and run the application again. So actually actions must plain JavaScript object, instead the actual type was function. So we need to add and check the function. So actually I think the name mismatch here. I am using here counter reducer, so we just need to rename here the counter reducer. And another thing we need to add here, actions actually we just call like this. We just save again the whole application and run again. Yeah, so now you can see the application is running. So now I click on the increment. So on press is not a function. So we need to add here we bind with the arrow function. So we bind with the arrow, and we just again save this and click on the increment. So now you can see the value of the count is incremented when I am clicking on the increment and when I'm clicking on the decrement, so value of the state is decremented. So when I click on the increment, so the value of the state count is incremented, and when I click on the decrement, so the value of the state count is decremented, because we are updating the state actually with the help of the use state. So because with the help of the use dispatch and with the help of the use selector, actually we are selecting the state, and with the help of the use dispatch we are updating the state with the help of the use dispatch hook. So actually count value is the value of the state we are using inside the reducer. This is the count state. So can we use multiple reducers? So how we can use it? So we can use it, suppose this is the one reducer, and suppose I just create another reducer, and just I want to name of this reducer is the another name I want to use here. Suppose the name of this is the toggle reducer. In here we just name change with the toggle reducer, and we just export here, and I just want to use here a state is toggle, and the initial value of the toggle is false. So this is the initial state, and first before using the toggle we need to create an action. So this is the counter action, and inside here I am just creating another action, and name of this action is the toggle. So now we just use this toggle inside the toggle reducer. So here type actually I am using toggle, so we just need to copy this, and inside the toggle reducer I am using here case toggle, because I have a single case the toggle, otherwise I return the state false. So I just change the toggle state here, so state.toggle and just note toggle. Every time it will just opposite the current state value. If it's true, then the toggle value will be false, and if it is false, then the toggle value will be true. So action I am using here toggle. So actually this is another reducer we are using here, and just I need to import this reducer inside the index, and I am using here a combine reducer. So actually the work of the combine reducer is to combine the multiple reducers. So I am just import here toggle reducer and just use here the state value. I am using here the state is count, but inside the toggle I am using is toggle, and here I am just is toggle, and here just add toggle reducer. So now just go inside the component counter, and here I'm just import the another action is the toggle, and another state I am using here another state is the toggle. So inside the reducer I am using a is toggle, so just I use here, and value is actually here I can just use toggle, and inside the counter I can use here toggle dot is toggle. Is toggle actually the name of the state inside toggle reducer, and just I want to use here. So here I just use another button, and name of this button is the toggle, and here we just use inside the dispatch I just use toggle. Toggle actually the action we have used inside the counter actions. and here we just use another text. I'm just using here, so I can use here the toggle val. So inside the JSX we just add a condition. So if it's true, so we just show here untoggle, and if it's false, so we just show here toggle. So actually we just use this inside the title. So title of the button will be changed when we click on the button. So here we just use if the toggle is on, so we just show here in here we just use toggle untoggle. Okay, so we just use here like this and just save the application and just check on the simulator. So we can use here a style inside the text, and I'm just giving here a margin 10 and font size just I am using here 20. Just save this. Okay, so now I just click on the increment. So value of the count is incremented when I click on the increment, and when I click on the decrement, so value of the count is decremented. So new thing, we added here a toggle button. So just I click on the toggle, so you can see here untoggle is showing on the button, and here is the toggle on. So state actually change inside the toggle reducer. So actually we are using here toggle reducer inside the store, and store actually we are using inside the counter component with the help of the useSelector and useDispatch. So like this we can use multiple reducers, and we can combine all reducers with the help of the combined reducers Redux provide us, and we can change the value of the state globally. So I hope this video is very helpful for understanding how we use the Redux in React Native. So if you have any query, any questions regarding to the Redux, so please let me know in the comment section. So if you like this video, please like, share and subscribe the channel. Thanks for watching.